Hello everyone and welcome to Educated STEM. I'm Kate, the founder, and today I thought I would talk to you about why you might want to consider working with a career counsellor, advisor or coach, depending on what they decide to call themselves. There seems to be a few different ways of defining that. So I thought that it would be a good idea for you to think about the different things that a career coach, a career counsellor can help you with to try and decide what you want to do with your career, where you're headed, and how best to get there. So the first thing I want to do is to show you what is probably one of the gold standards of career progression and job hunting. And obviously that is What Colour Is Your Parachute by Richard Bowles. And this is a classic for a very good reason. It is a very good book. It will take you a while to go through, and if you do the exercises, it will probably take you weeks, but it is something that you will find benefit from if you actually go through everything. One of the things I want to point out is the flower. The whole concept of his idea is that if you think about how you want to work, who you want to work with, where you want to work, what you want to do, the sorts of skills you want to use, then you will find a career that you'll be very happy in and that you can be successful in. And essentially that's what all career counsellors want too. So you can go through the book and do all the different exercises, or as I would suggest, you can do this, but you can also go and work with someone else who can kind of ask you questions that will make you focus about what you want to do and how you want to do it. So all of the things that I'm going to mention today would work in concert with going through this book. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, and it comes in two steps, so step 1 and step 2. And I know a lot of people have taken the free tests or the free assessments that are available online, and even on things like Facebook. So you'll be like, oh yes, I'm a C3PO, or I'm a Princess Leia. And really, what on earth does that mean? If you don't take the real assessment, then you're not really getting the added value of learning more about yourself. So I would encourage you, even if you have taken one of these assessments online, and believe me, even though I am one of the people who can actually give you the assessment and go through the rules, my husband does this all the time, and he's like, I've done it online, I don't need you, which is kind of frustrating, but it's okay. If you want to go and work with someone who is certified, and you do get a certification in order to do this, then I would suggest you do that, and that you will learn more about yourself. So the first thing you do is you go online and you take a long list of questions, and they're going to ask you to choose between two different options. And I would encourage you not to think too hard about either of the two options. Just go with your gut feeling and try not to consider where the assessment's going. So sometimes it might be really obvious. So one of the questions might be, do you enjoy being around people, or do you prefer being on your own? And that is obviously something that will help decide whether you might be on the more extroversion side or on the more introversion side. But there will be other questions which will just throw you for a loop, and you'll have no idea where it's going unless you're doing a psychology degree. So just go with the flow, answer the questions, and then you would get a report. So this is my report. I can never show anyone else's report, but this is mine. And so it will give you a 4-letter code. And because there are 2 options for each one, that means that there are 16 different codes that you could get. And each one of them is different, and it will explain certain things about yourself. So what are the different categories? So the first is where you like to focus your attention. So that's extroversion versus introversion. And note, I'm not saying introvert or extrovert. I think lots of us already know potentially what we are. But this is really how you get your energy and where do you like to focus your attention. So I am on the introversion scale. Being around people at a conference is quite exhausting, but that doesn't mean that I can't do it. I just need to know that at the end of the day, I need some quiet time alone to kind of reflect and kind of get my energy back so I can then throw myself into it the next day. So the next set of categories are sensing versus intuition. So that's how do you like to take your information. Do you use your five senses? Are you categorizing things all the time? Do you like having all of your data? Or do you like looking at the big picture? Do you like looking at patterns and then kind of going with your gut and moving on to the next step? The next is thinking versus feeling. And really, this can be quite contentious because people are like, oh, you're a feeler, you don't really think. And that's not true. It just means that if you're on the thinking side, you choose to use your logic to make your decisions. And if you're on the feeling side, you would consider other people's opinions and how it's going to affect them. And the final one is, so that's how you make decisions. And the final one is judging versus perceiving, which is how you deal with the outside world. So really, people on the judging side like a lot of structure. They would potentially make a list of things that they want to get done. They might have very particular things that they do on each day on their calendar. And someone on the perceiving side wants to be far more fluid, lots of flexibility. You know, if you don't show up for a meeting, it's not going to irritate them. If you, show up a few minutes late, that's cool. Whereas someone on the judging side, that might be a little bit more irritating. So when you take the assessment, you get your results. And if you work with someone, there is a cost to taking the assessment. And they might also give you one of these handy-dandy books, which again, there's a cost associated with these, which then explains more about the assessment and more about the different categories. So the one thing that I don't like about the MBTI is that people use it as an excuse for why they behave in certain ways. And that's not true. At all. You have decided to act that way. So just because I'm on the introversion side, it doesn't mean I can't meet new people. It doesn't mean I can't go to conferences. It doesn't mean that I can't publicly speak. But some people might use that as a crutch and say, oh, no, I'm on the introversion side. I can't do it. No, it might make you a little uncomfortable. You may not enjoy it as much, but you can do it. And so I would suggest if you do take the MBTI, use it to help yourself, and then also use it to utilize the other side that you may not be as comfortable using, versus saying, oh, that's fine, I don't want to do that because of this. Now sometimes when you take the MBTI, so if let's think about the way you make your decisions. Are you a logical thinker, or do you make more emotional feeling decisions? And so you might be split down the middle. You're like, I don't know. It depends on the situation. It depends on who I'm with. And that would help you to go to the MBTI step 2, where each of these 8 categories are broken up into more subdivisions, which are called facets. And if you are in the middle, it could be because you have a couple of facets that are on the logical thinking side, and then you can have a few facets which are on the more feeling, emotional, empathetic side. And so when you go to step 2, it might help you understand yourself an awful lot more. And I would definitely suggest that you do that. I'm a huge fan of doing both steps. I know some people do one step and they're like, that's enough. And that's fine too. I think that if you're interested in learning more about yourself, anything that you do is of benefit. You don't have to do everything, and you don't have to do it all at once. So the next assessment that I'm going to talk about is called the Strong Interest Inventory. And again, you would go online, you'd answer a lot of questions, and then you would get another report. Again, this is my report from a long time ago. And again, you might get given a book to go along with this, which also has a cost associated with it. So the Strong Interest Inventory answers a number of different things about yourself, but really the idea is that if you do things that you're interested in, then you're going to be more successful, you're going to be happier. So the first thing to do is figure out what you are interested in. And all of these things can be broken down into 6 categories, which are investigative, social, artistic, enterprising, conventional, and realistic. So what on earth does that mean? So if you are on the investigative side, that means you're interested in STEM, so science, technology, engineering, maths, medicine. It also means that you probably like to solve abstract problems, you may like doing research, but you also value things like independence, curiosity, and learning. So if you're watching this, you're probably a STEM person, because that's kind of what I do. So you're probably thinking, yes, I'm very likely to be in the investigative realm. But you could also have the others, because when you get to the end of the assessment, it will give you either a 1, 2, or 3 letter code. So the next option is social. So these are people who like working with people, they enjoy teamwork, they might enjoy teaching, and they're going to value things like cooperation, generosity, and service to others. So if you like working with other people, then social could be you. Social does not mean that you're a social butterfly, however. It just says that you enjoy working and helping others. So the next option is artistic. So these guys like self-expression, art, and culture. And they really enjoy being creative, original, and they're going to value their independence, imagination, and beauty. So I've said independence twice now, so that's for investigative, but it's also for artistic. So if you are an independent sort of person, then you could be either one of these. The next option is enterprising. And so if you're interested in leadership, if you're interested in business, then this could be you. And so these guys enjoy the ability to motivate, influence, and direct other people. And they value influence, competition, risk-taking, and status. So if you enjoy getting applauded for what you do, if you enjoy taking risks, and if you aspire to have a nice, big, juicy title or to get paid well, then this might also be one of your themes. The second to last theme is conventional, and these guys really enjoy organization, whether that's data management, information systems, or some other way of organizing whatever it is. They are going to value accuracy, stability, and efficiency. So if those things are really important to you, then the conventional theme might be one of yours. And the final theme is realistic. So these guys really enjoy operating equipment, building and repairing, potentially working outdoors, and physical activity. And so their values are tradition, practicality, and common sense. So again, you would take the assessment, and after you've answered all of these different questions, it would tell you what your code is. You'd usually get a 3-letter code. However, I have once got a chap who had a 1 code, which was fairly amazing. It shocked both of us, but it does happen. So you never quite know exactly what you're going to get. But if you take the assessment, it will then give you some ideas. Now, the cool thing about the codes is that each of the different jobs that you could potentially do has a different code. And so by looking at the codes that you're interested in, you can kind of go backwards and think about the kind of careers and jobs that you might want to do. It will also give you 10 different jobs which, based on your code, it thinks that you would be very successful in. So it's taking your answers and it's comparing it to everyone else who's taken the assessment and has said that they're very happy in their career and has been doing their career for a number of years. And so it doesn't mean that you have to do those jobs, but it will definitely give you something to think about. And if those jobs have come up but they're very, very odd, they're definitely not something that you consider doing, you might want to think about why they've come up, because it might be using skills or things that you actually want to utilize and you're currently not doing so. One of the other cool things about the strong interest inventory is it will come up with some other information. So how do you want to work? Do you want to work alone, or do you want to work with people in a similar vein? What is your team orientation? What learning environment do you prefer? Do you prefer by doing and for short periods of time? Or are you on the more academic side? You're willing to spend lots of years becoming a master in a very particular thing. What is your leadership style? Do you actually want to lead, or do you want to be the person taking directions? What is your risk taking? Are you happy to try something new, or are you more conservative and you don't want to take any risks at all? The next thing I'm going to talk about is can be quite important, and it's something called the Thomas-Kilman Conflict Mode Instrument. And so I think a lot of us realize that, life isn't always smooth sailing. You will come across people who will challenge you in many different ways. And the only thing that you can control is your response to it. And so the idea behind this is to figure out how you would usually respond, and depending on the situation, maybe if there is a better way for you to respond. So for this, you can describe a person's behaviour along 2 dimensions. So their assertiveness, so how much do you want this, versus their cooperativeness. So are you willing to put in the effort to make this work or not? And so eventually you will have 5 different options, which are competing, collaborating, compromising, avoiding and accommodating. And you will be able to do potentially all 5 of them, depending on what the situation that you're in is. And a lot of people come to me and they're usually stuck in conflict, and they come and ask to find out what their normal mode is. And that's fine, you can do it when you're in a stressful situation, and it will definitely help you. But I would encourage you to consider taking it even if you're not in a stressful moment, because it definitely helps you. I lean towards collaboration and compromise, those are my 2 things, but it doesn't mean that if I'm super passionate about something that I cannot compete to try and get what I want. It just means that maybe I'm less comfortable doing that. So again, you need to learn more about yourself and see how you would respond to conflict. Now, the last 2 things that I'm going to talk about, you can actually buy a book for. So I believe that your counsellors, if they've been trained in such a way, they can do this as well. But you can just work, at home at your own leisure if you want to. So the first one is called CliftonStrengths or StrengthsFinder. And so this is a little book that you can purchase. And I would definitely suggest that you purchase the book, because at the back there is a code that you can log on and take the test with. And so if you go to the website, the test costs more than the book. So I probably wouldn't do that. Get the book and then take the free test. So StrengthsFinder is broken down into 34 themes, and it is designed to help you figure out what you enjoy doing, what is your strength. So some people might already know what those strengths are, but this can definitely highlight some things, and it might bring some other things up that you have never even considered before. So you log on, you take the test. Unlike the others, this is actually timed. So you only have, I think it's 20 seconds to answer each question, which sounds quite a long time. But when I took it, some of the descriptions were really long, and I was still reading them, thinking, crumbs, I don't know which one to choose. And I timed out and it moved on. At that point, it asks you if you want to continue taking the test. It doesn't let you go back to the question, but it will continue to move forward. So if you're taking this assessment, you need to be definitely in a room where you are not going to be distracted by anything else, because those questions can go quite quickly and you need to be on the ball in order to do it. But after you've taken the assessment, and the idea is that you'll read a portion of the book before you take the assessment, and then you finish reading the book once you know what themes you have most. And so you'll get 2 reports. You'll get your signature theme report and a strengths insight guide. And so the report tells you what your top 5 themes are. And then the insight guide just explains a little bit more about them. And then you've got the book as well. To be honest, I think the book is probably, once you know what your 5 themes are, the book is probably sufficient in order for you to read and understand what's going on. But again, I think it could be helpful using your themes to figure out exactly what career you want to be successful in, or could be successful in. It might bring something up that you haven't necessarily appreciated is something important for you in your career or for your future happiness. And again, it's something that you can do from the comfort of your own home. So, why not? I think it's a good idea. And the final one I'm talking about, again, is another book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0. And so one of the things that I always struggle with is, obviously we're scientists, or people in STEM, we're probably rather intelligent. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have amazing social skills. I mean, we've all seen The Big Bang Theory, presumably with Sheldon. Unfortunately, that is a stereotype for a reason. And so one of the things that might come along with that, especially if you've watched The Big Bang Theory, is how Sheldon doesn't understand the people around him. He doesn't read situations very well. And the question is that you? Hopefully it isn't, but you probably would be wise to figure that out. So emotional intelligence comes down to personal and social competence. And so that's your self-awareness of how people might be feeling about you and your responses to things, and also your management of yourself and the relationships around you. So it doesn't matter if you have an IQ off the charts and you're like the top of Mensa. If for whatever reason you can't work with other people, people are put off by you. Sheldon is obviously a fantastic fictional character because he is incredibly intelligent, but he's also incredibly off-putting for people around him who aren't willing to put up with his nuances. So the question is that you? You want to be successful, and I think it's important to kind of dig into, especially if academia may not be something that you aspire to eventually. If you go into anything other than academia, then certain things are not going to be tolerated at all. And you're going to be expected to be able to moderate your behavior, and that is very important. So I would definitely suggest, if you're thinking about a non-academic route, that you think about your emotional intelligence. Because again, it doesn't matter how clever you are, what your IQ is, if you cannot work successfully with other people. And so knowing that and putting some effort into that, I think is a really good idea. So again, with the emotional intelligence book, there is a code at the back of the book where you can go online and you can take a test, and it will then give you information regarding your proficiency in all of the different things. So finally, I would suggest that you think about taking any or all of these assessments to learn a little bit more about yourself. I would suggest if you're an undergrad, a graduate student, or a postdoc, that you go to your institution or your university's career centre, postdoc office, something similar to that. They will probably have people who are very well trained who can help you think about these things. I realise that sometimes it feels weird for people in STEM to ask for advice and help because we are generally very independent. We can do things on ourselves or by ourselves. But the question is, you would go to your boss to ask a question about your field. So why wouldn't you go to someone who's trained in careers to guide you? They're going to ask you questions which will open your mind. I've had people come up to me and they just want me to tell them what they should do in their life, and that's not how this works. You need to be able to put in the time to reflect on your skills yourself. What do you want to do? What do you want to use? Do you want a 9-to-5 job? Do you want a guaranteed paycheck, or are you willing to be more of an entrepreneur where you may take very large risks, but the reward might be a huge payout in the end? So you need to think about these things. No one else can tell you what your answer and your comfort level is for yourself. You have to do the work. But if you do the work, then hopefully you can move towards a career which is beneficial for you, where you're going to be happy, where you're going to be satisfied, and which will allow you to have the kind of lifestyle that you want. So first thing, go to your career centre or your postdoc office. If you're not comfortable doing that, then obviously there are people like me out there who can work with you and advise you, but obviously there is a cost associated with those sorts of things. So the final thing are, I have blogs on the MBTI, the Strong Interest Inventory, Thomas-Kilman Conflict Mode Instrument, StrengthsFinder, and Emotional Intelligence, all on my website, educatedstem.com. So if you want to go and have just a little bit more information on all of those, they are freely available to you. If you want to talk about your experiences with any of these assessments, then please feel free to write a comment below. Please subscribe to the channel if you find what I'm doing helpful and interesting. And good luck, trying to figure out what your career is, what you're going to be successful in. It's challenging, but if you do the work, then hopefully you will find something that makes you very happy and that you're passionate about. So thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.